Hey everybody, it's GombletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today I'll be playing another quick draft of Dominaria United. Without further ado, let's just get into our draft and take our sweet rare. We've got a Rada's Firebrand here, 2 mana for a 3/1 whenever it attacks target creature defending player controls, with power less than its power, can't block this turn. So something with power 2 or less can't block, and it has an ability to buff itself up, give it +2/+2, and then when it attacks, it'll make it so something with power 4 or less can't block this turn. So a great aggressive red card. Super sweet way to start the draft. Going to put us in a pretty different archetype than we've done these last 2 drafts, if we can stick to it. So nice place to be. If this rare weren't in the pack, Essence Scatter plays really well in this format. Vine Shaper Prodigy is a solid 2-for-1 value play. Shadow Prophecy is a pretty good draw spell. A lot of solid commons out of this pack. Nothing great out of the uncommons, though. We'll roll with the Rada's Firebrand. Alright, now we have some sweet follow-ups for the Rada's Firebrand. My favorite two are Phyrexian Rager in black as a solid value creature to play on curve, and Sunbathing Rootwalla as a nice beefy creature that can get a huge buff later in the game. Very similar to the Firebrand, where it gets that buff later in the game. With Firebrand, the buff gets cheaper for your domain. With Rootwalla, the buff gets larger for your domain. So both Rootwalla and Firebrand can benefit a good amount from playing some extra land types, so they go really well into a red-green domain aggro deck. So I think I'll take the Rootwalla here to go with the Firebrand. That being said, Firebrand is a strong enough card, even if the domain ability on it isn't getting cost reduced that much. If you're just a 2-color aggro deck, this is still fine. 4 mana to give it +2/+2. Still a great creature. So we could absolutely just take Phyrexian Rager and start pushing towards a black-red aggro deck. But I also just really like the green decks in the format, and green-red domain aggro is no exception to that. So we'll take Sunbathing Rootwalla and see where it goes from there. Alright, well, if we took Phyrexian Rager, Extinguish the Light would be the very easy follow-up here, which is great, but another Sunbathing Rootwalla is also perfectly powerful. I think I'll scoop that up here. One of the strongest cards in the pack. I think the top 3 are Citizen's Arrest, Extinguish the Light, and Sunbathing Rootwalla, although Love Song of Night and Day is decent as well. But I'm happy to take the Rootwalla and stick to green-red domain beatsticks. Well, speaking of domain beatsticks, there's Territorial Marrow, where if we're lucky and if we can get full domain, that's a 5-mana 10/10. Even if we just have 3 land types, it's a 5-mana 6/6. At 4 different land types, a 5-mana 8/8. So very big, beefy finisher at 5 mana. We'll take the Territorial Marrow. Now we have 2 really good options that fit great into our deck here. Flowstone Infusion fits really well into any aggressive red strategy as a way to clear out anything with less than 2 toughness, or you can use it as a combat trick to win a fight or finish off a creature after it's been dealt damage, so really efficient little red removal spell there. There's also Floriferous Vinewall though, which is really good for green-based domain strategies. This is less good if we're trying to be a really aggressive green-red domain deck, and better if we're trying to be a grindier green-based domain deck. All 3 of our green cards fit well into any kind of domain deck, whether it's aggressive or defensive. So I think I kind of like taking Floriferous Vinewall here, and then we have 4 green cards and 1 red card. That way we're not super married to green-red aggro, and we have the option of being any kind of domain deck. There's a lot of kinds in this format. There's the grindier, slower ones and the more aggressive ones, and those could really be any combination of colors because there's a lot of good mana fixing, especially with cards like Vinewall. So I think Vinewall here, just knowing that we're some kind of green domain, gives us a great place to be that still leaves us pretty open at the same time. Kind of a little bit of an oxymoron in that way. Now we have a Mossbeard Ancient for the top end of our curve here for whatever our green deck ends up doing. Seems like a pretty nice card. We could also take Radiant Grove for the duel, but I really like the Mossbeard Ancient late game. Pack 1, pick 7. I'm not a very big fan of any of these red cards. I think they're all super filler, whereas we've got a really good black card and a really good blue card. Spawn of Turg can really set up your draws by surveilling every single turn, and eventually late game becomes a win condition, solid blocker early on. Tolarian Geyser is a much easier splash than Spawn of Turg though, especially for a domain deck where we're going to be running a lot of dual lands. We just need to have 1 random blue duel on the board, and then we've got access to this which is a very nice tempo play, slowing down one of our opponent's creatures and drawing a card. So I think I like Geyser. It's really splashable and one of the best cards in the pack. Pack 1, pick 8. Now we have a Miria's Outrider, which is really good for any domain deck, especially more aggressive ones for that red-green domain up at the top end there. So this looks beautiful enough to take this, but there's also Destroy Evil, which is super splashable, and 2 different dual lands to get that domain count going. But I'm going to take Miria's Outrider. Now this is all pretty filler, so we will slam dunk the dual land very happily. Pack 1, pick 10 now. Phyrexian Rager came all the way back around. Wow. Elfheim Worm's pretty filler once you're in the domain deck because you can have so many just great cards. You're splashing whatever you need. I've got like a 5-mana 10/10 instead of a 5-mana 5/4 Vigilance Trample, so take a Rager here. Don't know how likely it is to make the cut, but it's much more likely than anything else in that pack. I like Bog Badger, 3-mana 3/3. Always fine. Take up the Shield's a ridiculous white combat trick. Not that it looks like I'll be playing that here, but we're nearing the end of the pack. See what we get. Pack 2, pick 1. Alright, nothing beautiful for the green domain deck. Gaia's Might is solid, but it tends to wheel a decent amount of the time, so hopefully we can wheel the Gaia's Might and just take a dual land here. So I don't think anything here is something good enough we need to take it over a dual. Whereas I feel like I was in that position a lot in pack 1, so I didn't manage to get a lot of dual lands. Like I took an Outrider over a dual, which I would pretty much always do. Took a Mossbeard Ancient over a dual, a bunch of stuff like that. I think I need to make sure I have some duals here. I could see a good argument for either dual here. Taking the blue-white dual, make sure that we get many land types off of playing this, because we're going to be green-red at the core right now, so we'll have a lot of forests, mountains. And then this we just play tapped as a Plains Island, and boom, our domain shoots up to 4 instead of 2. But Haunted Mire, the argument for that is that we can play it over just a basic forest and not have to have basically a colorless land in our deck like the Beachfront is. So I think I'm going to take Haunted Mire here. Alright, pack 2, pick 2, Bortuk Bone Rattle. I will always take Bortuk Bone Rattle over dual lands. Ridiculous card. If you have full domain, you can use it and get a Miria's Outrider back from your grave to the battlefield. Even if it just brings a creature from your grave back to your hand, it's good. And bringing it back to the battlefield is absurd. So Bortuk Bone Rattle is a ridiculous card. Slam dunk. Join the party, Bortuk. 3rd Sunbathing Rootwalla. Alright, come on in. Pack 2, pick 4. Now we get a nice burn spell in red for some removal. Hurloon Battle Hymn. 3 mana, 4 damage to a target. Seems fine by me. Vineshaper Prodigy would also be good. Extinguish the Light is a little hard on double black though. So him or Vineshaper are the best. Taken to him. Ooh, one of the bots is scooping up all of our dual lands this pack. That is not good at all. So let's just make sure we get some decent red filler creatures so we can be red-green splash a little black and just be a good Gruul aggro deck no matter what. I don't think Retadrabic is gonna be great. It's cute. It works with Bortuk, but we only have one other legend right now. We're halfway through the draft. That seems too narrow. We're gonna take the Steel Crusher. Yeah, straight up, one of the bots is taking every dual land right now. Very worrisome place to be. Take another Bog Badger, so we've just again got that good green-red aggro curve at our core. If we don't get to do a lot of domain, actually I could take Warbrute here, the big trampoline lister. I almost think I'd rather have Scout the Wilderness than the Avazoa Aeronaut here with how many dual lands are disappearing, because Scout the Wilderness can help us get the domain up. Although Aeronaut is much higher upside if it pans out. Yeah, you know what, maybe I just take Aeronaut here, and then pack 3 we just take dual lands over literally everything. Pick 8 Gaia's Might, that's pretty good. I don't think we're a Tolarian Terror deck or an Elfheim Worm deck or a Keldon Strike Team deck, so I'll take the Gaia's Might. And we wheel the other Gaia's Might. Yep. Starting to look like red-green aggro with the just big beefy domain splashes, so we were kind of turning off of the red-green domain aggro plan and now kind of veering back onto it for the most part. Be interesting to see. All right, pack 3, what do we got? No dual lands in our opening pack. That is actually devastating because I don't really want anything in this pack. I guess I can take a Prayer of Binding and maybe splash it in. Shadow Prophecy. Alright, well, really wanted to open a dual land here. Maybe that's also what happened last pack. We just didn't open duels. Okay, I'll take a Tangled Islet here. Taking it over a Bite Down. That is the only card really competing. Happy to take the Islet. Take a Haunted Mire here. Now we are taking it over, I guess, a Hurler Cyclops. Not that bad. Not the fiercest competition. Ooh, this is some fierce competition. So let's take a moment to start building our deck to see what we really need here. So we've got a great endgame card. Stabilizes you, closes things out. A really solid early game card with Root Walla, and then 2 decent middle of the game value plays. The Prodigy to draw a card immediately, and the Rulik Mons to potentially start flipping cards from the top. Making some more creatures or putting some lands into play. So let's see what we really need on curve. So move all of our non-creature cards out of the curve. That leaves us with 5 2-mana creatures that can attack and a Flurfur's Vine Wall. 2 3-mana creatures, and I really don't want to play Berserker. 2 4-mana creatures, 2 5-mana creatures, a 6 and a 7. Really like our 2-drops with Firebrand, Steel Crusher, triple Root Walla. I think we're doing good on that front. I don't think I need the 4th Root Walla. The big argument here is between Rulik Mons or Vine Shaper Prodigy and Mossbeard Ancient. I think I just take the Mossbeard Ancient. It's kind of like the most impressively statted card for its mana cost. These are both good, but Rulik is a little small for its mana cost, a 3/3 for 4, even with a good Manus ability. Doesn't tend to trigger multiple times because it's pretty easy to double block a 3/3 and kill it. And Vine Shaper Prodigy is probably the closest to Mossbeard Ancient, but I think this is just a really, really good game ender. Trample, giving you pseudo evasion so your opponent can't just chump block it is great. And the life gain is huge to make sure it stabilizes you to put you in a position where you can be free to attack with it. Super good pack 3, pick 5. We get 2 different dual lands to choose from now. Got 4 green duals already and no red ones, so let's grab a Geothermal Bog, I guess. Pack 3, pick 6 is another kind of difficult pick. This is really like, what kind of domain deck are you? Are you trying to blow your opponent up relatively quickly and use cards like Gaia's Might to get a bunch of extra damage in out of nowhere, cards like Mirror's Outrider to get extra damage in out of nowhere? Or are you trying to grind out the game with a ton of great value with cards like Nael and Joda's Codex? And I think today, we're trying to blow our opponent up with cards like Mirror's Outrider, so let's scoop that up. Pack 3, pick 7, we have Floriferous Vine Wall versus some dual lands. I think I'll take a blue-black dual here to really up that domain count, take a fully off-color one at this point, with 5 that are half on color, 4 forests and 1 mountain already. Doing good enough there. Now we could take Rada, Coalition Warlord, give something +5/+5 whenever it attacks. Kind of similar to Rulik Mons, where the problem with Rada is that Rada's more than likely, more often than not, just going to die the first time she attacks. But at least she's going to give another creature +5/+5 in this deck. So we'll take Rada. I don't think I'll be playing any of these cards. I guess I'll take a Shadow Prophecy. Potential really big card draw spell there. I'll play a Scout the Wilderness, I think. I'm not in love with it, but I like it better than a Broken Wings or a Vohar or something like that. Alright, again, because we're in Quick Draft, we can kind of just build our deck as we draft. So if I just put my green-red curve in here and exclusively look at that, we're at 19 cards with 15 creatures, which is perfectly fine, but I need 4 more playable cards, so we're 100% playing Bortuk Bone Rattle, we know that. 100% playing Niall. Probably playing Prayer of Binding, but I could make the mana easier going for, with Bortuk Bone Rattle here, going for just black as the splash, and then just playing basically no planes, just playing Radiant Grove for the white domain land. Yeah, because then I could put double Rager in here, which ups the quality of our creatures quite a bit, and Shadow Prophecy for really good card draw, digging through the deck. And this is kind of how the deck looks like. And then what would we need out of these for this kind of deck? None of them? I guess Jaya's Fire Nado looks like the biggest flaw in our deck getting solved. We have very little removal, just one Hurloon Battle Hymn. Unless I play white for Prayer of Binding, Destroy Evil. Yeah, I don't think we need Hurler Cyclops. Our 5-drops are just better. We don't need Colossal Growth. Our Gaia's Mites are just better. Yeah, Fire Nado seems like the card that would fill something we need more than any other card, which would be removal if we don't splash white very hard. Oh, and then this is just really easy Rootwalla. Getting Rootwalla and Rulik Mons back. Good grief. Playset a Sunbathing Rootwalla. What a deck. I can play another Bog Badger over the Balduvian Berserker. I'm not going to play a Barkweave Crusher. Alright, so there's a little more deck building we get to do here. I guess with the Scout the Wilderness, we could maybe play 1 planes and run the white removal in here. Let's see. Well, let's put all the dual lands in now. Because I can just see that it's a 43 card deck. We can just read it off of there now. Okay. Yeah, maybe we drop Phyrexian Ragers, but keep Shadow Prophecy in. And then I can drop Fire Nido for better white removal spells. I can also drop Steel Crusher because I've got a full playset of Rootwalla now. Probably Warbroot's the most filler creature outside of that. We could drop those 2 and put in Destroy Evil, Prayer of Binding for more interaction. Now with Scout the Wilderness, we hit our black source late game guaranteed by having 1 plains, 1 swamp. I guess I have 4 black dual lands? Good lord. 4 black dual lands. I feel like even with that, I should be playing 1 swamp for Scout the Wilderness just in case. Maybe not. We've got Vine Wall as well. Only 2 black cards in the deck. Bortuk Bone Rattle and Shadow Prophecy. Can play both of those late in the game. Yeah, maybe I don't play a swamp then. I don't think I played 2 plains though. Radiant Grove, a plains, and a Scout the Wilderness is probably enough for 2 white sources. Or for 2 white cards. My bad. It's definitely only 1 blue source. I can tell you that. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take a look at the sideboard again. But I kind of feel like this is the collection of cards I want to main deck. The issue is getting this mana to work out well. Yeah, I mean, I like the Ragers. That's the main thing that I'm not playing that I like a lot. Geyser's fine. No, I think this is where we're at. Really like Rada's Firebrand and 4 Rootwallas as our 2-drops to go with double Gaia's Might. Could be a lot of damage. I mean, we could cut like a Rada for something, but I don't think there's anything in the sideboard that's super great. I think this will be... These are going to be the non-land cards in the deck. We just got to get this mana base in order. 16 green cards. Yeah, first and foremost, make sure we've got a mountain of green. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'd rather have like 9, so I'll cut a plains for now to get to 9 green sources. Alright, 9 green sources. That feels pretty good. Next up is red at 5 cards. There's 5 red sources. Seems fine. Not incredible, but fine. Black and white both have 2 cards. Black is at 4 sources, I believe. Yes. White is only at 2 sources, but white has a fetchable source for Scout the Wilderness and black does not. So black has like 4, white has 3, kind of, sort of. Seems fine, and then the 1 island to be fetchable. I don't like love the mana base, but I think I want it like this rather than the other way it had it. The only problem with this one now is that we only have 5 red sources and a really aggressive 2-drop red card. That's just not going to resolve at that point. 5 red sources is plenty for late game Outriders and Battle Hymns. Even Rada to an extent, but maybe if we cut Rada's Firebrand and the Coalition Warlord, we'd then get to swap out these 2 for another swamp to have 5 black sources, as well as a fetchable black source to have 2 Phyrexian Ragers on 3 instead, and just be all in on 4 Root Wallas for early game. Kind of interested in that. Like, we're getting less aggressive by doing this. Wait, what did I do that accidentally put me at 41 cards? Oh, I think I'm at 18 lands is why. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, I put myself to 18 lands. So if I swap out Phyrexian Ragers for Rada and Rada's Vanguard, that allows me to have a fetchable swamp. So now I have all 5 land types are fetchable off Scout the Wilderness, which feels really important and really good. The one thing about doing it this way is I'm slightly less aggressive, because instead of a 2-drop aggro dork and a 4-drop that can get a lot of damage in, it's just 2 very medium-sized 3-drops. But they're good card advantage. They give me more black cards to be able to put a fetchable land of all colors in. And now I don't have like a card I really want to play on turn 2 that I only have 5 sources of, because that also feels awkward to me. Only having 5 sources for a color that I'm trying to play a 2-mana 3/1 in. So I think I like this better. Messing with the mana base kind of messes the Phyrexian Ragers back into the deck, and we are really 5 color over here. Full domain nonsense, but it looks pretty strong. I think that is where we're gonna call it a deck completely. Mana base and all. Alright, here's a look at the completed deck for today. This is going to be another domain deck. We've got a little bit more of an aggressive skew this time around, though. We have a full playset of Sunbathing Root Wallas to get a lot of damage in, potentially, as well as 2 Gaia's Might that can really surprise our opponent with a bunch of extra damage. We then have 2 Miria's Outrider, dealing damage to our opponent equal to the number of basic land types we have, and a Bortuk Bone Rattle to bring one of them back after they die to potentially finish our opponent off. So a more aggressive domain build today, but still plenty of good value as well. We have 2 Phyrexian Ragers being 2-for-1s, drawing us a card as they hit the board. We have a Shadow Prophecy, which can dig very far through our deck, looking for whatever we need. Some really big late game to get back into the game with Mossbeard Ancients flipping things around, gaining us a bunch of life, giving us a 7/7 trample. Really good card advantage off Niall, especially if we can get all 5 land types, which we've got a lot of good duels and some ways to tutor out basics with Scout the Wilderness. Looks like a really solid, really nice domain deck for today. Very excited to see how it does. We head into the gameplay. Here we are in game 1. Unfortunately, this hand is very much not representative. Alright, here we are in game 1. Our opponent is on the play, and our hand is very much not representative of our actual mana base, so I think we have to mulligan here. This is pretty rough. I mean, we have Battle Hymn into late Outrider. I don't think that's enough to rely on, though. Alright, this is much better mana. Still not incredible mana, but it is certainly workable this time around. We actually have a turn 2 and a turn 3 play this time as well. Phoenix Chick, turn 1 from our opponent. Very aggressive. 1 mana, 1/1 flying haste that cannot block. Now we get to Amplifier. It's just mono red aggro. That gets +2/+0 every time they cast a instant or sorcery spell. So it could hit us for 3 if they attack in and cast a spell. Or cast a spell, then attack in. So if they have like a lightning strike, they probably shoot Rootwalla for 3 and hit us for 4. No removal yet though, and they're stuck on 2 mana. Stuck on 2 mana and mono red, so it looks like their mana base is working out a little worse for them than ours is working for us. We'll send in the Rootwalla, see if they want to use a combat trick to kill it. They do not. So we'll play the Bog Badger to still have a blocker up. They chip in with the Phoenix Chick again, still stuck off of mana here. We'll play our land so we can threaten to buff the Rootwalla, attack with both. No blocks. I don't think I actually do buff the Rootwalla because that would stop me from playing another creature this turn. I'd rather just play another one. There is the 3rd mana for them, and Flowstone Kavu is the play. They are looking mono red, but don't think we'll ever know because I'm not sure we're going to be able to see every card in their hand. Ooh, 4th land type for domain could be massive here. We can +4/+4 Rootwalla. So this is 4 damage to them right now, which puts them to 9. I can hit them for 8 more damage and put them to 1 life, but I can't quite kill them, so I think I'd rather just play an 8/8 than put them to 1. That is so close, though. I could also save Bog Badger and hit them for... hit them down to like 6 life or something. I think I'm just playing Territorial Morrow here. 1 damage off there. Alright, we are still going to get there in the end. Our opponent scoops them up, and as expected, we don't get to see their full hand by the end of the game, so we'll never know if they're mono red and just stuck on not enough mana to play their spells, or if they are blue red or black red or something. It's probably more likely, but who knows. Either way, their opening hand was not working out super well for them, so we kind of just get the free win to start it off. We're going to be 1-0 heading into game 2. Here we are for game 2 with some very excellent mana. Our opponent is on the play with a turn 1 Crystal Grotto to scry 1. They're going to scry that card to the bottom. I think I'm going to roll out with Rootwalla into Rager, play all my creatures that can actually attack first. Get aggressive at the start. Our opponent's on double Crystal Grotto. They could play any 1 mana card. Alright, there's a mountain. Now they can play some 3 mana stuff. They're going to go for a Baird, Argivian Recruiter. We do not have any interaction right now that can deal with Baird, so that is going to stick around. Unless they want to trade for Rootwalla, I think I'd be okay with that trade. To keep it from potentially triggering and giving them multiple 1/1s over time. Alright, let's drop Phyrexian Rager so we have a blocker for Baird. Probably should have played the island. I'm going to block here. They have the +1/+1 counter trick. That's going to be pretty bad for us, but they would probably just use it regardless. Gain 3 and start triggering Baird's ability to create 1/1s. Okay, there's the white source. If Baird makes it all the way up to 4/4 stats, I can destroy Evil Baird. But otherwise, they're just going to have a chump blocker every single turn from these 1/1s. They have Phyrexian Rager here. Draw a Bortuk Bone Rattle. That's a really nice one. With full domain like we'll have next turn. Our opponent is also some really multicolored pile. Red, white, blue, double Crystal Grotto. Keldon's Strike Team coming in hot. Phenomenal card. A 3/1 and 2 1/1s all with haste. We'll kill the Strike Team. Baird's going to give them another creature. It's a Mirya's Outrider? Alright, that's a game plan. Mirya's Outrider into Bone Rattle. Now they can't attack in with Baird unless they can get another +1/+1 counter on it. It's like another Take Up the Shield, which would then make it big enough to die to a Destroy Evil. They could also have a removal spell for our Outrider. That would not be ideal for us. Najal the Stormrunner lets them double up an instant or sorcery later. That is very spooky. I probably need to Destroy Evil that. Because if that declares an attack and they have a removal spell in hand, they just kill 2 of our cards, that's just going to be completely deadly. We're also just going to die to Baird making too many 1/1s. Baird absolutely popping off. Let's Destroy Evil and Jaw. I'm doing it right now because all their sorceries have flash. All of their sorceries are instants. As long as they have that card. I don't want them to have every trick in the book available next turn. There's their own Outrider for 3 damage. We're down to 12. If they draw into the card that gives +2/+1 to their whole board, we're just going to straight die, especially if I Shadow Prophecy. What even is our plan here? Don't have a lot of cards that can break through this. I have 2 Mossbeard Ancients. That would be spectacular. Six mana, 7 mana if I play a land. Play any 4-drop I draw into. Alright, go down to 10. Dig 5 cards deep. 2 of them go into my hand. Prayer of Binding's a very good one, as is Niall. Put an Outrider in the grave so I could just Bone Rattle that back. So I want a Prayer of Binding Baird? If I play Niall, I can't get through their 4/4 Reach Outrider until I draw a Gaia's Might. But if I don't kill a Baird, again, eventually they're just going to have way too many 1/1s. I feel like I'm going to Prayer of Binding a Baird. Doesn't play the greatest if they have Destroy Evil of their own somewhere. Balmor. Oh, Lord. Balmor and Baird? That's horrifying. Let's go to full control so I can Prayer of Binding when they go to their end step. What is going on here? Some kind of instant in their hand to buff everything to kill stuff with their 1/1s and try to kill me with their 1/1s. Maybe gain life out of nowhere can keep me in the game here. Rootwalla trades off here. They Balmor. Glowstone Infusion. Okay, I guess, yeah, they could have just killed like a Vine Wall with that anyway, so. Oh, it gets Trample? Oh, shoot. They get +1/+0 and Trample? Probably just dead to top deck Balmor then. Because this feels like too much damage. I stopped the most damage by prayering the Outrider, but then I can't prayer Baird or Balmor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, neither of these trample over. Okay, hold up. If this tramples over, I take 3 damage from this. 1, 2, 3, plus 8 is 11. Prayer of Binding puts me up to 12, so I don't die? But then they have a Balmor and 4 1/1s to kill me with next turn. And I'll have no creatures left on board. So I will just die the next turn, even if I Bone Rattle back an Outrider. I don't know if there's any way to not die next turn. Balmor. Oh. Oh, Balmore. If I Prayer of Binding Outrider and they just keep getting 1/1s every turn, there's also no shot at victory. Yeah. I think that's just game, but I guess I'll hit Baird. Alright. I can play like 2 blockers. So we're dead. Just needed removal for Baird a lot sooner. Game could have played a lot differently. RIP. 1-1 heading into game 3. Here we are in game 3. No green source equals unkeepable. Insta-mole. Now we are on Rootwalla, Badger. No black source for Shadow Prophecy. I could just ditch that. That's fine. Yeah, Rootwalla into Badger and then another Rootwalla later. Another white source. We've drawn both of the white sources. So our domain is not looking super hot this game. That is a bold use of Tachova. Might have a duplicate in their hand or something. Usually don't dump out the Tachova until the turn that you play your 7th land if you only have 1 Tachova. So either they have another Tachova or some graveyard recursion potentially. Or they could just be bold with it. Okay, they definitely have another Tachova if that's happening. Only way that makes any sense. Alright, we're still chilling as a green-white deck right now, I guess. Another Vine Shaper Prodigy from our opponent. There's a Tangled Islet. Now we've got a blue source. Spicy. Means Rootwalla becomes a 5/5 if they double block. Rona's Vortex, bounce it. Alright. Ooh, Black Source Bortuk for Tachova. That is the play. There's our own Bortuk, but our man is not popping off here. We play a Niall, pass turn. You can combat trick my Badger if you want. And that is what they are gonna do. Okay, so land type number 4, that is the black source for Bortuk as well, pretty importantly. They have 3 non-land cards in their hand, because if they had a land, they would have made it a 3/3. They would just be holding it right now. That use of Tribute to Urborg makes me think they don't have another instant or sorcery in hand. Like it might just be a bunch of creatures. They used it aggressively to kill my 3/3 on the ground, when if they just waited a turn and played another instant or sorcery, they could have kicked it to do -4/-4 to Niall. So I think I could hold Niall up as a blocker and actually block Prodigy potentially. Unless they have 2 Tribute to Urborgs in hand, that would explain that, actually. And they just kick another one. I'm just going to triple block Tachova. Alright, yeah, they had double Tribute to Urborg. Jova's still dead. Now we drop an Outrider and then Bortuck it back next turn. There's their 7th land, but we killed Techyova. Trade Outrider for Bortuck. Tattered Apparition. I see. They want to kill me with flyers. Well, here is Outrider again. Could have picked Niall, but Apparition's basically a 3/3 flyer, so I'm never going to break through that, and I'm also not going to block and kill it, whereas Outrider will block and kill it. I do not have a Techyova in my deck, so I am just going to run my land out. Urborg Repossession, that is phenomenal here. Gain some life, get Techyova and Bortuck back. Just another land for us. Well, send in 7/7. No blocks. I have another bounce spell in hand now. Oh, go to 3. Alright. Just gonna hold this to be menacing now. But they're at 3. Grab a land from Techyova. Phyrexian Rager, go to 2. Pass the turn. Scout the Wilderness is the draw. Well, we play it kicked. We can check out how many outs we have and dig closer to them. Main deck negate. Alright. Does play fine in this format. Doesn't play incredibly, but it plays fine. Block 3 creatures. Take 4 right now. Alright, well we know we have like another Miria's Outrider as a definite out. That's the main one. Get one of our big life gain tramplers. But Miria's Outrider is the easiest way to finish this game. If I hit all lands these last couple turns, then we're not gonna win. I'm pretty sure we're dead on board now. Shadow Prophecy would be a win con as well, because grabbing any 2 cards from our top 5 probably closes things out as well. Alright, not the best draws that game, unfortunately. Gonna push us down to 1-2, heading into game number 4. Here we are now for game 4. Pretty excellent mana this time. We're at domain 4 already, with the Scout the Wilderness to get the 5th land type. Playing against blue-black with turn 2 Vohar. That is pretty exceptional. That is the blue-black build around uncommon on turn 2. It's a looter that can also drain us for life every time it draws and discards a card. Then it can flash back one of their instants and sorceries from grave. They're on blue, black, and white. I'm gonna take up the Shield of Vohar? What? You just have nothing else to do with their mana? Just gonna let Vohar attack, and then they don't get to loot this turn. Alright. Weird flex, but okay. Is it shore up on Vohar? Timely Interference on Sunbathing Root Walla is the play right now. If I Scout the Wilderness, then I get to play a 10-10 next turn. Get a little greedy here. Try to play a 10-10 next turn. I gotta tap out a blue mana to do it, though. Otherwise, Essence Scatter is too strong in this format. Okay. Main phase, draw discard, just discard a plains here. Pass the turn with the blue mana up. I'm probably still going to go for Morrow, but I'll do it post-combat, and then I can potentially Bone Rattle it later. Can't Bone Rattle it next turn because I have to play a tap land next turn. Alright, and if they don't have the counterspell, then we do resolve a 10-10 onto the board, which seems pretty good. The mana working out excellently this game. They've got to destroy evil, but again, we can Bone Rattle it back later. Rona, Sheoldred's Faithful. That's pretty fine, just makes us lose a life when they cast instants and sorceries. Main phase, draw discard with Vohar. Discarding an island. Top deck. An untapped land number 6 to Bone Rattle back the Morrow right now. Alright, I would rather not have to buff this Root Walla, but they probably should just not block here, because they know I could buff it and just kill Rona. Although it's 7 damage, they might block just to stop 7 damage with their creature that could potentially get recast from grave. Okay, no blocks, so we'll just deal 2. Play Bone Rattle. There's the 10-10. There's another Destroy Evil for it. It's met its best friend again. Its archenemy. Love Song of Night and Day. What chapter shall we go? Chapter 1. Everyone draws 2. Alright. I will take these extra lands. Attack with everybody here holding up Gaia's Might and Root Walla's ability. Double block Bone Rattle. Vohar could recast a Destroy Evil on us. I kind of want a Gaia's Might here. Just kill both of these. Get them out of the way. Gaia's Might could find so much extra damage out of nowhere. Like Gaia's Might +5/+5 on Root Wall, I could hit them for 12 right now. This is just how explosive Gaia's Might is. We're cracking in for extra damage, but I'm just gonna kill Vohar. And Rona. Keep the Bortuk. Draw a card, discard an Argivian Cavalier. Their hand must be getting very nice. Draw a card from Phyrexian Rager. Draw a land from Vinewall. Slam a tap land onto the board and pass turn. Extinguish the light, the Sunbathing Root Walla. They gain some life, and it is gone. And impede momentum the Bone Rattle to keep it tapped for 3 turns. Scry 1. Mirror's Outrider is a good draw here. Oak for 2. Slam down a Mirror's Outrider. Tap land on the board and pass the turn. They've got a Love Song of Night and Day now. They can put a +1/+1 counter on 2 creatures. It is up to 2 creatures, so they're going to choose just to put a counter on the bird. No gifts for me. No treats. Another impede momentum. Everything is just stunned all day long, and there's another Love Song of Night and Day. They are again going to have us each draw 2 cards. We've got Niel and Shadow Prophecy now. I guess I'm going to mill out first if they keep having us both draw 2 cards, especially when I'm about to play a Shadow Prophecy, digging 5 cards deep. That being said, I'm still just going to play a Shadow Prophecy here. Get a Miria's Outrider and a Sunbathing Root Wallet to the hand. They are at 9 life. Outrider them down to 4. Or I could play Niel and Rootwalla. I'd rather go Niel and Rootwalla. Then it's possible to find lethal next turn attacking with everybody. If they let in 4 points of damage somewhere. Phyrexian Espionage. They draw 2 cards and we discard a card. And they tap 2 creatures to draw another card, so we may be able to get a couple points of damage in. Gaia's Might. Alright, their odds of death are very high now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I could Prayer of Binding and Outrider, but I can't Prayer of Binding and Gaia's Might and Outrider. So I think I'd rather just have Gaia's Might up when I go to combat. Send in everybody. I have the mana to Gaia's Might and Miria's Outrider, or Gaia's Might and Rootwalla, or Rootwalla and Outrider. A lot of different ways we could find lethal here. Block the Rootwalla, take 4. That's already dead to Miria's Outrider, but it's also dead to Gaia's Might, so we'll see if the Gaia's Might resolves. Gaia's Might does resolve, and that is going to be lethal. We are now 2-2, heading into game number 5. Here we are now for game 5. No red source, but we have 4 land types. No, 3 land types. Vine Wall can find 1. Got a Bone Rattle, we have the mana for. A Rager, we have the mana for. Let's go for it. I mean, I don't have 6 mana yet, but I've got 4 lands for Bortuk, and I have the correct colors. Okay, Gaia's Might is the draw. Let's see what Vine Wall gets us. Ooh. Already got an island on board. Let's grab the mountain for Miria's Outrider, and that also gives us an untapped land, which I think I want to play turn 3 just to drop out Rager immediately. I'm just going to play it right now. Drop Rager, draw into a Sunbathing Rootwalla. We have quite the curve going on here if we can keep hitting lands. A Mossbeard Ancient in the late game. Our opponent's on red, white, and black. They drop down an Argivian Cavalier. We've got a Rager to trade into the Cavalier on blocks, so we can just play a Rootwalla and pass. Red, white, black, and green. Be another full domain deck here that just started with a turn 3 Cavalier, which is kind of strange. But stranger things have happened. Okay, so we've missed our 5th land drop, so now we're chilling. We just play an Aeronaut. They've got some kind of instant here, probably a removal spell, hopefully just a combat trick so they can't kill our Aeronaut. But we'll see. Alright, Shadow Prophecy, instant speed card draw. pick 2 cards from the top 4 to put in the hand. The other 2 go to grave. They milled a Phyrexian Missionary and a Destroy Evil. I guess it was their literal best 4 cards in their library on top, because whoa. Especially milling a Phyrexian Missionary feels weird, because if there was any other creature, they could just mill the creature and then pick it up with Missionary later. Alright, so there's a Destroy Evil to kill Niall. Here's our 5th mana. Can play a Root Ball and hold up a Gaia's Might, I guess. What do they have here? 2 mana, they've got something at instant speed. +1/+1 indestructible life gain thing, or there's a black and 1 indestructible death touch. I feel like I just don't want to get in combat right now. We'll just play another Root Walla while we have more creatures to play. Hold up Gaia's Might against a potential -2/-2. Or that. Works against that as well. There's a Sunlit Marsh from our opponent. Phyrexian Espionage kicked. We drop Mossbeard Ancient. I gotta hit 2 more lands to play that out. I already have the mana for Outrider, and I just need 1 land to Bone Rattle back the Outrider. Could just go land, Bone Rattle back Niall. Seems pretty fine. I think I can just attack with everybody here. Actually chip in for some damage. They're going to trade Rager for Cavalier, take 4. Okay, let's Bone Rattle back Niall, I think. Could bring back Ancient, but it won't hit the board immediately. I'd rather get a creature onto the board instantaneously. Shield Wall Sentinel. And they've got Wingmantle Chaplain. 5-color Defenders. The Hidden Secret. This deck feels like when you just draft the highest win rate card in every pack. Just a collection of all the best commons and uncommons all over. And they're drawing them in a great sequence here, so it is not working out well for us. But I don't know what their exact deck goal is, other than just great cards. But that is a lot of the domainy stuff in this format, to be safe, or to be fair, to be frank. Alright, I guess it is a Wingmantle Chaplain deck in disguise, which means we probably lose, as Wingmantle Chaplain tends to do to you. They're going to play a Chaplain and get 3 birds immediately, and if they play any more Defenders, they'll get even more birds. We've got a good board state to push in for some damage here. I get to play Radiant Grove pre-combat as well to draw off of Niall, which could be big. Let me buff a Root Walla. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm actually going to buff a Root Walla if they let me do that. And then even if they play a Wingmantle Chaplain, I just play Outrider next turn. Okay, maybe we just outspeed them? Outpace them? Gaia's Might is tempting. Surprise extra damage. But they're at 3 already, so if they let anything in, they're already dead. Probably supposed to take, like... I mean, Gaia's Might's the only thing I could afford to hold up anyway. I'm gonna take Gaia's Might. Take something I can afford to hold up during their turn. Oh, they might have Essence Scatters, though. Because they seem to have just all of the High win rate cards and Essence Scatter is certainly up there. Hopefully they won't hold up one in a blue, at least. There's Wingmantle Chaplain. They are not holding up one in a blue. Alright, Defender's deck in disguise. It's gonna get domed by Amiria's Outrider. Bang. God, I love Miria's Outrider. We're now going to be 3-2 as we head into round number 6. Here we are for game 6. We've got the green source and the black source thanks to this Haunted Mire. Very important land to this hand. Hopefully we can get Vine Wall to get us a blue source for the Avazoa Aeronaut. Blue, blue, blue. There we go. Aquifer it is. Not going to be playing stuff on curve. Play the Rager on curve still. Need a white source before Niall's super exciting, so I think I would rather curve out my 3-drop and then play a tap land after, instead of playing Niall turn 4. They're going to Essence Scatter a Phyrexian Rager. Oh no. They're going to counter it unless I pay 0 with Protect the Negotiators. Unfortunate for our opponent. Deathbloom Gardener is the play now, so they have some mana fixing here. Can't play anything outside of Gaia's Might this turn, so we'll play our tap land now. Send in our 2/2. Alright, they're going to take the 2 damage, and we will pass the turn. Blue, green, and white now from our opponent. Knight of Dusk's Shadow, black as well. It is all 5 color all day today. We're not allowed to gain life as long as Knight of Dusk's Shadow is on the board, which makes our Prayer of Binding a little bit worse. Slightly sad. It's still instant speed removal that can exile a card, which is good, so it's not like it's getting a massive downside. Alright, pass the turn back to us. We've got another green source, so we could Gaia's Might our Aeronaut if they try to do something fancy. I could also send in Rager, and even if they have a combat trick here, we have our own combat trick. I guess the white combat trick's a lot better, though, because it'll keep a +1/+1 counter on it and gain them a bunch of life. Looks like they do not have that, though, so we'll just cast the Avazoa Aeronaut and pass the turn. There's an Impulse from our opponent. Look at the top 4 cards of their library, put 1 into their hand and the rest on the bottom. Pretty sweet card when you're running a lot of instant speed blue counter spells and stuff, which they are with the Protect the Negotiators. Land number 5 for our opponent with the Deathbloom Gardener. That'll be their 6th mana. They're going to Tail Swipe our Phyrexian Rager. If they can't counter this Gaia's Might, then our Phyrexian Rager would win the fight, and we'd 2-for-1 them here. Trade their Knight of Dusk's Shadow and their Tail Swipe for our Gaia's Might. So I will attempt it. They do have Verona's Vortex. That plays out fine, because we got rid of Verona's Vortex and Tail Swipe at the cost of Gaia's Might. We still get to recast Phyrexian Rager. Oh, they had double Tail Swipe? Well, goodbye, Niall, but I've got a Bone Rattle to bring her back, so that's fine. But yeah, now with Phyrexian Rager, we get to draw another card when we recast it, so fine to have that bounced. Yeah, I've got 4 land types. Let's bring the Avazoa Aeronaut back. Most mana efficient thing we can do for the turn. And it seems pretty good. There's a Shadow Prophecy for our opponent. They get to put 2 cards from the top 3 into their hand and 1 into the grave. They mill an island and draw 2 other cards. Drop a Llanowar Loam Speaker. It's a mana dork, adds mana of any color. At this point, the game is just going to keep hitting me with a 3/3 land. I've got 4 4s and 2 4s, so that should be fine. Here's a Scout the Wilderness to get my white source. I'm going to Rager first, I think. See if I naturally draw a white source. But if I don't, I'll definitely Scout. Right, looks like we got a Scout. They actually have some really aggressive attackers here. Because they have the Black Knight and the White Knight, the First Striker and the Menace card. I'm going to have a 4/4, a 2/2, and an 0/2 on blocks. It's not great, but I think it's good enough to attack and draw a card of my choice out of the top 5, because that combat damage ability is just too good to pass up right now. We just gotta trigger that thing, even if it would be a good blocker. Grab a Mossbeard Ancient. Get a 7/7 blocker, gain 5. Oh, I can't gain life against the Knight. I'm gonna have to Prayer of Binding that first. Okay, that's less good than I thought it was, but it's still... It's gotta be at least in the top 2 of those 5 cards in terms of power level. It is a gigantic dork. Okay, so Knight of Dawn's Light. They have the mana to buff that up 3 times. Gonna not block. Okay, buff it once. Buff it twice. Down to 10. There's another Mossbeard Ancient. Well, we're 100% on Prayer of Binding. Let's get Niall to connect first to see if we hit something else that's, what, 5 mana or less to play other than Rootwalla. We get a 3 mana card, I can play Rootwalla and the 3 mana card and the Prayer of Binding, which is pretty great. We'll consider that. Outrider for a 5 mana card or Rager for a 3 mana card. Also Destroy Evil. After they buff that other Knight up. I like all these a lot. I think I'm going to go for Outrider. Might be a bit greedy, but it really speeds up the clock. Potentially. So we're going to exile Knight of Dusk's Shadow. We're also going to play Amiria's Outrider. Going to hold off on exiling the Knight. Guess I give them an opportunity to draw into like a negate here. We've got 1 card in hand though. Okay, they only have the mana to double buff the Knight of Dusk's Shadow. So theoretically it's going to be a 4/4 Menace, and Bone Rattle can trade in. Knight of Dawn's Light, I can force them to double buff there, blocking with Outrider. Well, like Outrider's going to crack back anyway. So they won't have great ways to buff all this stuff as much as they need to. Oh, wait, no, Loam Speaker can get a mana of any color as well, so they could buff the Knight of Dusk's Shadow to 5 power, but then they don't have the mana to buff the Knight of Dawn's Light. Which means I could kill both off of Prayer of Binding. Okay, so now that they're tapped out, we know the Knight of Dusk's Shadow is going to die to Bone Rattle, so I can Prayer of Binding Knight of Dawn's Light. Oh, and they're just tapping. They're just conceding because we can kill them on the crackback regardless. But yeah, I'm going to Prayer of Binding the first strike Knight there. I guess we actually only had 4 mana on board on the crackback, but They saw they had an instant there I was about to cast, and yeah, pretty much any instant would lead to them just dying next turn. And it was going to, so we are 4-2 now. We've turned kind of a rocky start with a couple early losses into an above average run, at least getting 4-3 or better. See if we can't keep it up. Heading into round number 6, 7. Yeah, we've played 6 games. Heading into round number 7 now. Here we are on the play for game 7. Really, really bad mana here. Got to be an instant mulligan. Mana is not much better, but I think we ditch a Destroy Evil and keep this hand rather than mulliganing down to 5. We've got a green source, which is the most important thing in this deck. Having 1 green source. But only 2 land types for the domain. Not phenomenal. And of course the uncastable Destroy Evil is pretty bad, so we'll get rid of that. Our opponent starts with an island. We'll start with a turn 2 Sunbathing Rookwalla. Blue-red from our opponent. A very, very nice, very aggressive deck. One of the decks that can really punish the slower domain builds. So with kind of a slower hand like this, we might be having a bad time here. They can play some nice aggressive creatures like Haunting Figments. Electrostatic Infantry is like the MVP, where it keeps getting bigger every time they cast an instant or sorcery. And then they can cast a lot of cheap instant sorcery burn spells and bounce spells and stuff to get us. Yeah, this is a lot of damage. I'm not into that. I can trade one of these off pretty freely with a Bortuk potentially later. Trade into the 3-1, but this is, I want to keep 1 Rookwalla out, I think, and start chipping in for 5 a turn. I have nothing else to do with my mana. They are down to 15. There's an amplifier from our opponent. If they had 1 more mana, they could have kicked it. Bounced one of our cards. Alright, we've halved their life total. They're down to 9 now. There's a Hurler Cyclops. We might just get there off Miria's Outrider into Bone Rattle shenanigans. Because Outrider is going to put them down to 5. If I hit a Plains and I get my Miria's Outrider in the, or hit an island, sorry, and get my Miria's Outrider in the grave, then Bone Rattle just straight kills them next turn. So let's try to get an Outrider in the grave. They're going to hold up blocks for our stuff all the time, no matter what. So we just need to get another Enter the Battlefield trigger off Outrider, ideally. Short up on Cyclops is pretty great there. Keep that on the board to try to kill us with. Soaring Drake, blue source, come on. Oh my god, Aquifer off the top. That is Miria's Outrider shoots you for 5. GG. Incredible draws there off of not great mulligan. I think our mulligan ended up in not a super good hand, but we drew very, very hot. Just drew the exact right cards on the exact right turns, and it's going to get there in the end. We are now 5-2, heading into round number 8. Here we are with a pretty weird hand for game 8. I'm going to keep it. 4 colors naturally off of all basic lands. Don't have much early game plays, but the Shadow Prophecy on turn 3 is going to be pretty great. Let us dig for the white source and go from there. Baird turn 2. Last time we got Bairded turn 2, it did not end well. Hopefully, we can change things around a bit this time. Alright, Baird into Charismatic Vanguard. That can trigger Baird by giving their whole board +1/+1. Then Baird is going to give them a 1/1 in the end step. Pretty aggressive start. 2-2 into 3-2. Gotta find some kind of early game. Oh no. Alright, well, another green source is necessary for Mossbeard Ancient later, and I already have double red. I'm not going to need more than that, so I guess I'll grab 2 forests. All basic lands this game. This is really, really weird. Drop Phyrexian Rager. Now we hit Sunbathing Root Walla, but we can't afford it this turn. I actually probably should have played Mountain there. Instead, if I want to play a tap land, I can still have 4 out of 5 duels out. So now they're just going to have Take Up the Shield, which is going to trigger Baird every single turn. Probably no. They're not going to cast it if they do have it. We actually get to trade into Charismatic Vanguard. Unexpected, but I will take it and enjoy it. Let's drop a Miria's Outrider, which is big enough to block Baird without dying. Force them to use a removal spell, or keep them from attacking us. And then on turn 6, I can play a Root Wall and hold up the 4 mana to make it a 6/6 blocker. And then turn 7, I can play Mossbeard Ancient, and that is where we try to stabilize, gaining a bunch of life and getting a massive, massive creature on the board. Zar-O-Janin, that is not good. It's going to put a +1/+1 counter onto Baird if it becomes tapped. We've got 2 removal spells that could kill it if I had a white source, but we do not have a white source, so that is currently not going to happen. Let's play a Sunbathing Root Walla, so we definitely kill Zar-O-Janin when it attacks at least, unless they have some way to tap it without attacking, like enlisting it or something. Tory Davenant, pretty strong red-white aggro card. Give the attacking creatures +1/+1, the red ones trample, untap the white ones. No attacks yet. We draw into another Miria's Outrider. Just slam dunk a Mossbeard Ancient down now. Pass the turn. If they send in some attacks, we're going to put the 7/7 onto Zar-O-Janin. The 4/4 onto Tory Davenant. Let's see what kind of nonsense they want to cast during combat. Viashino Branch Rider hitting the board as a 3/3 haste. Could get in immediately, but not particularly well through a Mossbeard Ancient. Does trigger Baird since it came with +1/+1 counters, so not lovely for us. I've got the mana to play a Miria's Outrider and attack in with Mossbeard Ancient, so I think I'm on that line here. Attack with the Mossbeard Ancient, we have Gaia's Might to make it an 11/11 here. Then I can Outrider them for 4. It's not quite dead. If I can top deck a Plains, they'll be dead. Do I go for it? Make them dead to top deck a Plains? Or do I just hit for 7 for now? Let's just hit for 7 for now. Put them to 5, holding up a Gaia's Might, so if anything gets in next turn, they're dead. I think the only way this goes super poorly is if they have Runic Shot as their removal spell, and that's what's going on. Or if they have just a multitude of combat tricks to just get us killed here. But it would have to be a lot of stuff. An egregious amount of nonsense to kill us. And if they don't kill us, then they're dead. Unless they top decked removal for Ancient. Again, if they had removal for Ancient earlier, they would have already killed it. Nine damage on board. They can double buff this. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Alright, let's see if there's an egregious amount of nonsense here. We'll find out what all they've got. If they have like 2 copies of that might be dead. Heroic Charge is kind of an egregious amount of nonsense. Go to 1? Oh. 7, 8. Toughness. They have to block with everybody to not die. And then I kill Zarojan and Baird and we play Mossbeard Ancient, number 2. Oh my god. This is wild. We are living life on the edge over here. Another forest for our opponent. They've got double green now. They have double green in 5. Do they have their own Mossbeard Ancient? That would be actually kind of devastating. Keldon's strike team. Oh my god, does that just kill us? That might just kill us. 3, 4, 5, 6. It literally exact lethals us. Seems like a good card to have. Alright. RIP. That was wild. What a way to end it. 5 and 3 we're going to be with this domain deck. I'll take it. That's a reasonable, respectable record. I think the deck could have done better. We had a few awkward draws, awkward games there, and a few pretty explosive plays from our opponent like that last game. But the deck certainly could have done worse as well. Domain archetypes, 5-color archetypes, are always going to be some of the more high variance archetypes. It's a lot easier to draw a pretty bad opening hand. In most 2-color decks, the majority of 2-3 land hands are going to be perfectly good and keepable, but with 5-color hands, you can have some really bad draws at some non-ideal times. You open yourself up to a lot more variance to have a lot more power in the deck total. So I think 5 and 3 is perfectly reasonable for this deck, perfectly reasonable for some good domain stuff in the first place. I don't think there were any huge underperformers. I think everything did its job pretty well when it showed up. Yeah, I didn't hate anything in the deck. I don't think there were any... I guess Niall was a bit of an overperformer, because Niall was a lot better in this deck than she was in her last one. Because we could actually hit the full 5 land types for domain, that ended up being pretty incredible. But yeah, Outrider Bone Rattle stuff was some great shenanigans as always. The Mossbeard Ancients were great endgame. Gaia's Mites got in those extra points of damage. Everything operated pretty much as I expected it to. All some decent stuff. Overall, in the deck, solid run this time around. 5 and 3. Well, that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons very much for supporting the channel, as well as you for watching. If you're interested in seeing more videos like this, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to hang out with me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. Other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.